It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today's video, you would have already seen from the actual description title, is I'm going to be looking at a pair or a set of helping hands. Now, I'd asked the local Australian keyboard community on what kind of stuff that they'd like me to try and get hold of to review and check out, and especially if it was something that was lacking from people's kits and could be affordable. And it was actually recommended to maybe have a look at some helping hands. So if you've ever seen any of my build videos previously, you would see that I use rather a large one, and it's got this yellow base. Well, it's yellow, but you might see that it's white because I've got paper taped over it just to protect the paintwork on it, because, you know, I'm a little bit retentive like that. But it has flexible metal arms, it's quite heavy, and it's an American build. It's very expensive. But, you know, I was cruising through and people actually suggested, well, what about something that's cheaper and a lot more affordable, maybe something that's got some unusual features. So I mentioned it to my Banggood rep, and they were more than happy to send me what we're about to look at today. And so what it is, it's called the 6-arm solder iron stand holder third hand soldering PCB fixture tool helping hands with magnifier mini LED flashlight USB charge. Whew, what an absolute mouthful. So, you know, as I always like to say, everything that you're going to see here is 100% my opinion, the good, the bad, the ugly. And of course, I'm not being paid for this whatsoever. It's purely a sample for review. So let's tick over and have a look on the screen what this actual product looks like. So it's 50 Australian, it's about 30 something US, relatively affordable. The one that I normally use, it's double that plus the shipping, which I paid for to have sent over from the US. Madness, I know, but you know, I really wanted it for some reason at the time. So this is a very octopus looking kind of thing. It's a bunch of socketed things that will move around, and we can see that there's a magnifying attachment. It looks like it's got plastic protected alligator clips on it. That looks like there's a light, there's a switch for the light, and it's USB powered. So if we zip down to its features, it's got 6 arms. It's got metal sheets to prevent sliding. I don't know what that means by metal sheets to prevent sliding. It's got silicon wafer clamps, 3 to 5x magnifier, and it's a 60mm, so it's actually quite a large lens on it. And it's meant to weigh about 0.578 packaging. So let's yeah. So just zipping through. Okay, so it's got a threaded component here that you can detach, I guess. It's rubber coated. Yeah. So pretty simple. Let's check it out. So here's the actual package. The other side is my address. It is still sealed, but I do have trusty kitchen scales here. So they claim it's, what was it, 5 something, 578. 578 is the, if it'll, I've gone and balked it. What have I done? Okay, there we go. 578 is the packaging weight, so it's TED to 0. Not bad. Not bad. 3 grams difference. I'm actually quite impressed with that. Okay, so let's just put that aside, because once we get rid of the packaging, we can check out its actual weight, so you have an idea of, you know, what we're dealing with here. Okay, so the package is upside down. It's a very plain looking box. On the side, it's got some code, which doesn't mean very much. On this side, it's an SKU. Box is a little bit trashed, but you can't really blame them for that, simply because that's probably a local shipping related matter. And here we go. So, how easy is it to put this thing together too? Right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the magnifier LED, and it's actually got the USB connection there. Ooh, that's pretty cool. It's got a wrench tool. I can see the actual clips there, and there is the base. So, box can go on the floor. Let's start off with the base, shall we? Focus is not doing too well today. There we go. I must say, I do like it. It is aluminium, so that's actually this machined aluminium with the edges are sort of chamfered, so you don't cut yourself, which is quite nice. And the actual feet, these rubber silicone feet, are threaded. They're threaded. I don't really understand why, but are they threaded? No, they're just they look like they've got threading on them. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up very well. Yeah, you can kind of, it's out of focus up there, but you can kind of see that there's some banding on that. Maybe if I get up really close. Will it focus? There we go. You can kind of see that it actually has threading on it. So, and the insides are actually threaded, obviously, to put these on. So that's cool. Now we've got the 60mm magnifier here. That's a big boy right there. 60mm. Is it 60? It's bigger than 60 actually. It's about 66mm. Hello? Yeah, so you can see it's actually about 66, 67mm. So that's cool. Okay, and then we've got our clips plus a wrench, I guess, which is to help put these on. So that's, whoa, it's very stiff, which I guess you kind of want it to be, because it's going to hold its position. It's crackling and creaking, but that's all right. It's going to hold a good amount of weight. Certainly wasn't expecting that, but for ease, so let's just back that off so we don't cross thread it, especially plastic and a metal. I'm not quite sure if you really need this, but I guess if you wanted to make sure it was absolutely tight, you could. Doesn't have that typical, came out of a factory kind of smell to it that you often get when you get these kind of things. Okay. So far so good. Okay, so this one has a black bit on the end, which I'm assuming is actually going to be for the magnifying glass. So now that one's got that side's actually got a cutout there. Not 100% sure what's with that. If I zip down and have a look, it doesn't really show what kind of reasoning there is for that particular one. But oh well, we'll see how it goes. Now this one's much longer also than the other ones. I kind of only just realized that by putting it in. So if we lay that down, you'll see it's got a bit of extra length to the others, about another 10 centimeters of length. So that's cool. Let's maybe put the light on the other side just to balance it for some random reason. I wonder why they put so many rubber bands on this thing. Or maybe it's just one rubber band very tightly. No, it's just one rubber band very tightly. It's a bit of a mystery on why they did that, because they didn't really need to. Okay. Rightio. So there's the actual LED, which is also covered in plastic and rubber banded. There's a on-off switch and a USB connection right there. So let's get that in. I suppose that's a bit of an annoyance that the cable's going to get in the bloody way of everything. Probably should have put this one on first, hey? Well, that's my mistake to make and your gain. So if you get one of these, put the LED one on first, so that you won't make the same mistake I'm doing right now. Whoosh. Okay. That should be tight enough. Alright, that one is tight. And there's another rubber band to take off. Voila! Alright, so now, this is really interesting. So they've given me cable ties, but only 3 cable ties. What are the cable ties for? If I look at the pictures don't really detail what the cable ties are for, because the package doesn't even mention them. Let's just have a look. So the package says aluminium base, magnifier, spanner, lamp, crocodile clamps, universal joints. Why is there 3? Why is there 3 cable ties in here? Very weird. Tiny cable ties. It doesn't even make sense that you would want to use them to cable tie the USB cable either. Because what are you going to cable tie it to? I don't need the mini wrench, so let's just put that away as well. Okay, so let's move that out of the way. That can go in the box. Those can all go somewhere else. So these are just a straight up, like a bit of a plastic socket, and they'll just bung in, I guess. Yep, they just bung in and they just rotate. So I guess the risk here is that, oh, I was going to say they'll come out really easily, and I kind of am right in that something does come out. It's just that the plastic insert doesn't come out. The actual alligator clip itself comes out. It's got a good amount of tension on that, and it is silicone covered, so that is something. But yeah, that came out a lot easier than I was actually anticipating it to. So let's get them all in. This one didn't go in as easily. Alright, maybe if I do that, that'll... Yeah, so they're not consistent. They're definitely not consistent in how tight or deep these inserts will go. So it's just something to be aware of. So there's another one there, and one more. So realistically, even though this has 6 legs on it, if you're going to use the light and the magnifying glass, you're actually going to be only getting 4 actual clamps. Now, you can't really undo the light one because of the wiring going through it, but if you undo the magnifier, does that work? No. So yeah, you're actually stuck with only 4 usable alligator clamps. Now that's not really an issue for most part, I would expect, because 4 is going to be quite sufficient, but it does mean you actually end up with a spare alligator clip. So that's, I guess, something. That's nice. Alright, so let's just clamp that. Now, the flexibility of this is... Oh, okay, so look at that. I've just gone and popped that leg right out of its socket, but it should be a... there we go, an easy fix. So you do need to be careful because you can overextend these by the looks of it. So let's just carefully crackle our way around. Alright, so now the camera is actually quite close, so you're not really getting to see and appreciate the full scale of how big this is, but you know, if I hold this up, it's almost like one of those head massage things that you can get in stores where, you know, you put it over the top of your head and you can massage your head. The, what do they call them? Orgasmatrons? It's almost like that. No, but it's... Wow, this light one keeps coming off. So that's... Got to be careful. Got to be careful with that one. Okay, so let's put this magnifying glass on. Alright. Okay, so it's pretty quick to put one of these together. I'd say you could probably put it together in about 5 minutes. Definitely less than 10. It's been 17 minutes, but that's because I'm talking and unpacking and messing around a little bit with this. Okay, so the whole thing is put together now. I'm going to put the cable back in the middle, and I'm going to get the scales so we can now check out what its actual weight is as opposed to its packaged weight. So the actual weight is, yeah, it's not too bad. It's only about 100 grams less. So 485, 486, 485. You know, so it's all right. It's relatively light. And the reason why I mention this is because the other one that I normally use is 2 kilos. So it's 4 times the weight of this. And in terms of the size of the base, it's a good size base. We're talking about, you know, 130 millimeters, 13 centimeters at the widest point. And the design is hexagonal, so it's actually quite stable. It's just that you got to make sure you don't have too much weight loading, because you can see it is potentially going to lift. But there's enough cavity space here that if you had weights, you know, if you had brass weights, lead weights, you know, stainless steel washers, whatever, you could actually just fill this up with extra weight and hold it down. But I do note that the middle of this actually has a drill hole. Okay, so you can see that the white is showing through from underneath, and then I'll cover it with my finger. So if you want to bench mount this, you could actually just get a appropriately sized screw and just run that through into your bench top, and then that will fix this down. I think that's exactly what it's designed for, because I can even see that it's actually threaded, but obviously it doesn't come with a thread, with a threaded screw or a self-tapping screw of that nature. So that's something that you can think about. Now, of course, everyone's keen to see the magnifying glass. Not really, but you know, it's simple. We can see how big and fat my knuckles are. So that works. And let's check out this light? How bright can this light be? Right, so power is on and plugged in. Whoa. That's actually really impressive. You can't see the room over here, but it's quite bright. Like, this thing's really bright. I'm very impressed. I'm actually very impressed with how bright that is. So that's really cool. It's just, only thing concerning is this bottom one is just going to keep popping out. Now, noting that this is quite long, but in order for it to flex downwards, it's quite limited. So the working height that you're going to get out of it is obviously going to be shorter than the total height and length of this. So realistically, I'm flexing that, and I'm going to tell you, you're only going to get about 22 centimeters of clearance. That's heaps. That's heaps. Now, I do have a PCB we're going to try and actually clamp. So this is large. This is the down bubble PCB. If you've not seen it, it's my own design for a split ergonomic keyboard with a numpad in the middle. Of course, you can go and check out the videos in regards to the down bubble and its development, design, prototyping, and all that kind of stuff. So let's rotate this so that the cable is on the bottom here, the magnifying glass is on the other side, because naturally you don't want the magnifying glass in front of you if you're trying to solder, so it should be really over the top but giving you clearance space underneath. And the light then obviously is in the wrong place because it's going to be in front of you when you solder. So you might have to think about how one actually sets up the position, but you can unscrew them, right? So that's easy. So let's just put that in and see how easy it is to position these to actually clamp something. So I'm going to clamp that. I'm going to clamp that. All right, so it's holding up. You can see in the corner cam here that it's definitely holding it up. But okay, how does this fare? All right, so let's go this way. Okay. Can I actually get it to clamp with all four that have the alligator clips on them? Now, if you're watching that magnifying glass and you're getting sick, I do apologize because it is wobbling a lot. Okay, so I can get that angle quite flat. But you see, it's only supported by the two on the bottom here, so that's why I want to try and get these ones at the top to also provide some kind of support, if it'll do it. Okay, so that one's kind of working. Okay, there we go. All right, so now it's actually quite stable. It's actually holding a large size PCB just fine. I can get it all the way from one corner to the other corner, which you're not seeing on camera very well, but that's one corner, and then I'm going to shift across, that's the other corner. And of course on the top side I should be able to do that as well. So yeah, that one's drifting a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I can support that clamping it at the corner, and then on this side I should be able to readjust it and go all the way over there. Okay, so this is the full-size keyboard, right? This is a full-size keyboard PCB, which means if you're working on something that's smaller, like a 60%, a macro pad, no issues with actually being able to adjust it to get to what you need. The height of it is perfectly fine because, you know, I can actually probably reduce this a bit, maybe. Let's see how low it can go. Okay, I'd also angle it slightly towards me normally, so the back would stay up and the front would probably come down a touch, just like that. Okay, so that works. And it's at a reasonable height for me to sort of work at. So we're looking at, it sits about 17 centimeters off the table surface. And then if we want to, we can do that, and yeah. So we can actually look at the components, and then I can be blindingly whoosh. So that definitely gets me as much light as I will ever want to have checking out whatever it is that I'm working on. So you know what? I'm actually very impressed with this. You know, it's not something that you have to think very hard about design-wise, but the functionality there is beautiful. It's spot on, and that light, you know, I don't expect it. It's not generating very much heat. It's an LED. It's 5 volt. It runs off USB, you know, and it's very flexible. So if it's too much light, I just have to angle it away, or, you know, off into ambient direction if you really want to. Yeah, I can really get that focus and attention if I really need to. So that's really cool. That's really cool. Now, I suppose we should probably think about wrapping up, because obviously there'll be people complaining about why is this a half-an-hour review on a helping hands. And I suppose my response to that is because I can. I like to look at things in depth and talk about them and show them off and whatnot. So let's start with the pluses. The plus is it's easy to put together. It's very functional. It'll support and hold up quite strongly a full-size PCB, and the arms are very rigid, so that's really good. You've got a magnifying glass so that you actually can see a lot of detail if you really need to, and the light support here is really fantastic. It's nice and bright. It's very easy to work with. The negatives, and it's a double-edged sword, is that this ball joint, I feel, is a little bit harder to position. They're very stiff right now. The thing is, over time, if they wear and loosen up, they will also lose their ability to hold their position, because they will collapse. Because as you use it a lot, if it smooths out and doesn't grip as well, then it's just not going to hold weight. So the stiffness factor is good, but it also makes it hard to position well without jerking and jumping around, because you're trying to get it to a point where it'll move and then you want to stop it in that position that you want. Whereas sort of the metallic snake arms, they tend to be a little bit easier to actually position and flex. The base, I feel, is also a little bit small. Like, the stability factor is okay because it is in a hexagonal shape, but you can see I'm using my pinky, right, and this whole thing is just moving. So if I'm working on it and I accidentally knock that with my arm, right, the whole thing moves. And that's why the one that I normally use, that I got before this, it comes with that super heavy 2 kilo base, simply because if you jolt it, it doesn't move. Your components aren't going to jiggle around and fall off and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that this doesn't have going for it by comparison. But it breaks down really easy, and it does have a very small footprint, and you can permanently or semi-permanently mount it to something, whereas my other one does not have that. So, I mean, you could tap a hole in it, but you're going to be drilling through a steel plate, and, you know, that's not really what you want to be doing. So I guess it's really up to you to decide if it's worth how much that they're asking for this. And I know that you can even get cheaper helping hand units than this, but they tend to be a lot smaller. They tend to be a lot lighter, and they've got, some of them have fixed metal arms and only 2 clamps. Whereas if you're going to do large jobs like a full-size PCB and you're loading it up with switches as well, the extra arms and support is a lot more stable with 4 clamps compared to 2. 2's fine if you're doing small things, and if you need to do wire support as well, well, you've still got the ability to have a spare, like what I'm sort of pretending to do now, because 3, if it's positioned correctly, will give you a lot of support and will still give you the freedom to hold wires as required, so you can, hold something in there if you need to. Now you could of course try and source a spare one of these blue octopus arm thingamajiggies and just swap out the light or the magnifying glass. I think they should probably be quite easy to get out there on the market. So that does give you extra flexibility on that factor as well. Yeah, I think that kind of covers it all. Now, why would you want to use a helping hands? I think that was a question that somebody had said that I should probably address. Helping hands are quite useful because they can hold stuff for you naturally, like holding an actual PCB or wires and stuff like that, components like I was talking about, so that you can concentrate and focus more on your tools, like holding solder in one hand and your iron in the other if you don't have a soldering gun. And the other thing is it allows you to put, say, through-hole components in without worrying about their positioning. So these diodes that have already been installed here, I bent them, dropped them through the hole, but because there's nothing obstructing it underneath, they just sat flat on the PCB. And I could solder them in, and after I did all of them, and then I turned around and I clipped them. So that enabled me to actually have quite a nice, clean reverse side of the PCB where I've just got very small, fine dots where the actual diodes went through. Whereas if I had left the legs on and bent them so that they weren't falling over and everything else to flip them around, then, well, because if I tried resting on the table surface, the diodes would be pushing up and stuff like that, I wouldn't be able to have as neat a solder job on the other side of the PCB. So yeah, I really like and enjoy using helping hands, and I would say that this unit, it looks good, it's very functional, it's very quick and easy to put together, and well, I think it sits in at a reasonable price point for the features that you get. Alrighty, thanks very much for checking out the video. If you do want to check this out yourself, there is a link below to the actual product, and being 100% honest and transparent, it would be an affiliate link. So if you are thinking about picking up one of these, please use my link. It'll help me out so I can continue to get more stuff and be able to do reviews and create content for you guys. It also supports our podcast channel too. Not channel, podcast. Rightio. Well, if you like this kind of stuff and you want to see more, please hit that like button. If you have suggestions on what you would like to see me try and get hold of and review, please leave that comment below, because then I can have a chat with my network and see what I can do about that. And of course, if you are not subscribed to this channel, I would love and appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button as well. So thanks for checking out the video, and of course, as always, until next time, happy clacking.